UPfront. Tonight, we will seek solutions to what is perhaps one of the biggest problems in this republic, dealing with the urban sanitation mess. We will get to realize that after losing 290 million US dollars every year due to poor sanitation, there ought to be something drastic done about that particular situation. Well, perhaps that will be the reason why the president separated what used to be the Water Works and Housing Ministry and actually brought out sanitation and water resources specifically to deal with the problems in that department. Today, we summon the minister for this particular sector to answer all the questions, teeming questions about what is happening to our sanitation setup. Now, first and foremost, before we even get to speak to the minister and explore what is being done in this sector, let me let you appreciate what exactly the problem we want to deal with. And this is not supposed to be Accra-centered. I'll take you first and foremost to Takoradi in the Western region. The municipality is not only drenched in extreme heaps of rubbish in the various centers that you will want to see clean, but there seems to be no headway in dealing with the matter. This same problem is being replicated across the country. But first, let's take a snapshot of what's happening in Takoradi when it comes to how the sanitation mess is causing a lot of trouble to the people there.
It's about 9:30 in the morning and I am here at the Takoradi market where businesses are gradually picking up. Traders in all sorts of wares and commodities are busy beckoning people to come buy from them. But right there in the backdrop are heaps of garbage piled up at almost every corner of the market, especially the inner perimeter, known as the market circle. Despite the stench, it's business as usual for the hawkers and traders.
This is the center of the market. It is not right to have refuse here. City authorities must find a way to clear this place.
Containers will leak.
The refuse container leaks. So when people pour water in it, it messes this whole place up. They should fix it. This place is dirty. You have house flies all over. Sanitation officers want us to give them money before they do their work.
Unlike the traders, the patrons who have come to buy this morning are unhappy about the insanitary conditions at the markets.
This market smells because people fill the drains with refuse. And the containers are not emptied for over a month.
I'm not comfortable, but the only thing is the thing that I have bought, I have to clean it well before I will use it. That's the only thing I can do.
Abdul Karim Hudu is the second Takoradi Metropolitan Environmental Health Officer. He blames the houses close to the markets.
We do register people who are around the market circle, that is the stores. Those who do not have refuse containers, we ensure that they have the refuse container. But people are very stubborn over there. You make them buy the refuse containers, and when you don't monitor them, then they will throw these refuse containers, and then they will start putting the refuse on the floor, and that is mostly that is why you go there, and after since you see that over there refuse are lying on the floor.
The assembly says it is trying its possible best. The contractors say they are doing all they can, whilst the traders say they are managing the situation. It is, however, the final consumers who will bear the brunt of the filthy environment should there be an outbreak of disease. Refuse scattered all over. The people said it is worrisome, especially those who live and work around the market circle. They want the assembly to do more, though they are doing their best. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, Takoradi, Western Region.
We're still live on our frontier. My name is Raymond Alqua. So that is just the situation in the Western region. Takoradi should be, to be specific. It's not only in Takoradi that there's this huge problem of poor sanitation, which was reflecting in deaths. And if you do recall, in the year 2014 alone, 20,900 Ghanaians living in the Greater Accra region, or if I narrow down, in Accra alone, were infected by cholera. Out of this, 121 died in the process. This is how serious poor sanitation is and the threat it poses to human lives there. But if you're also one of those who are pretty much interested in what the statistics say about the situation in the country, now, not in Accra alone, let me take you to the Upper East region. Now, this is one place where 89% of the population practice open defecation. And this is the highest rate in the country anyway. If you take the bigger picture of the nation, 5 million Ghanaians wake up every day and the only improved sanitation facility they have is an open space to actually defecate. And the spiraling effect of this is how worsening and the impact that it has on other, what they call waterborne diseases in this sector. Now, to be clear, we also do know that on the average, 22% of the people in the country do not have access to any sanitation facility. The population of Ghana, the almost 28 million that we are made to reference every time, that population, 22%. And if we were to be, let's say, 100, 22 out of 100 human beings you find in this country are without any form of sanitation facility at all. And this cuts across the board. Now, in terms of districts, 38 districts have actually had problems with dealing with open defecation, and that's one of the ways that we are assessed. You do recall that some time back, we were ranked as a nation with a very poor record when it comes to open defecation. Second worst in sub-Saharan Africa. Africa was 7th, and the world also gave us a very bad ranking in this particular area. There was a time in this republic, somewhere in 2012, that we only ranked number 2 to then war-torn South Sudan as the poorest when it comes to sanitation. And this is in terms of two things: open defecation, poor and low access to what they call it, facilities like improved toilet facilities, and also how our water coverage is supposed to be working. We'll be talking about what's being done about the situation, but let me take you to the central region and gauge what the mood in that particular area is when it comes to the sanitation facilities there and how that's impacting lives in Cape Coast.
According to the World Bank, 1 in 5 Ghanaians practices open defecation. This practice makes Ghana lose $79 million on the effect of open defecation yearly. The same World Bank report states that every region in the country practices open defecation, with no district that is open defecation free in the country. Kwame Nadankan says beyond the practice being dehumanizing, it is also costly and must not be allowed to go on.
As a country and as a people, we have ourselves to blame. Apart from the fact that it is dehumanizing, it degrades our persona, that in the open, that which is supposed to be private, as Amma alluded, we show it to all. Apart from that, the implications are so clear. And especially where in the night you must respond to a thing like this. You package it however you find it, and you dispose it off into the environment. It is our business.
He says successive governments have not done enough, and posterity will not forgive this government if it does not make amends. Even more disturbing, he says, was the fact that not much effort was being put in place to ensure that many places of convenience were built.
My view is this: that 60 years nationhood, we do not have to have you to be the ones to continue to preach to us. But here we are, And we need to take up this challenge. And first and foremost, I would want to see central government itself give it the necessary muscle. And so I'm happy that in the last budget that was read, the finance minister promised that as many as 200,000 household toilets will be built. Let us hold the finance minister's leg under the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. They're supposed to do that. Let's, in this campaign, let us be loud.
Loretta Roberts of the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund congratulated the government and the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources for the leadership shown in improving the sanitation situation in the country through the launch of the National Sanitation Campaign. She explained that the Open Defecation Free Ghana campaign was aimed at making Ghana open defecation free by creating awareness of its dangers on the well-being of the people and to trigger a change in their behavior on negative sanitation practices. According to her, the campaign did not only target those who practice open defecation, but policymakers, service providers such as the environmental health officers, community development workers, health and education staff, and the civil society.
Launching the ODF campaign today in the central region is key, as the region bears a chunk of the burden of poor sanitation in Ghana, being one of the 5 regions in Ghana with the highest open defecation rates. With the launch of the campaign complementing ongoing behavior change activities in the region, I believe the region is on its way to make a turnaround in the sanitation statistics.
The Mahine of Ugwa traditional area, Osabre Makwesiata II, said open defecation called for drastic education and urgent action to change the attitudes and behaviors of the people, and he will lead a campaign to stamp out the menace. Richard Kwejonyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
You welcome back. I did promise you that the Sector Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources is my guest today, the Honorable Joseph Kofi Adda. He's been an energy minister before, if you didn't know. He was in Parliament, he left Parliament, he returned to Parliament. So as returning member of Parliament, you welcome, sir, to UPfront.
Thank you very much.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm not doing badly.
Okay.
It's just a little cold, that's all.
I mean, you were very vociferous when you were at Energy. It looks like at Sanitation, you are a bit on the low side, but it's a very big area too. What's been happening in the last close to 12 months?
Thank you very much. There's a lot happening in the sanitation sector and the water sector. First of all, we have to understand that this is a very new sector as far as...
And forgive me, Honorable, I will come back to you, but we need to take a brief break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation here on UPfront. You welcome back. This is UPfront. My guest is the Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation. And today, we will seek to understand what the ministry's project for 2018 is supposed to be and what it's been like for 2017 for them. Honorable, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
And now I can hear you. Wonderful. Now, the 2017 year was perhaps the experimental year for government in many of its fields. How did the ministry fare? What were the major projects in this year for you, 2017?
First of all, it's important for us to understand that it's a very new ministry being formed out of 2 functions, one coming from the local government ministry, which is the sanitation bit, and the other coming from works and housing, which is the water aspect. This new ministry virtually had no capacity to start operating. I must say that it started as a one-man minister or ministry, and so we had to work our way to try and build a capacity to get things in place. Talking about the sanitation side, we had just about some 4 people coming from the Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate of the Ministry of Local Government coming in, and 4 people cannot do the big job that's before us at the central level. And by that I mean in terms of policy formulation, in terms of monitoring, in terms of overseeing the implementation that should be undertaken at the MMDA levels or the local authority levels. And then when you go to the water side, we didn't have more than 2 or 3 professionals coming from the Works and Housing Ministry to help set up this ministry. And so we have to work on getting capacity built up. The institutional arrangements are important for us to have them all lined up properly. And the financial systems that were scattered have to be streamlined to ensure that all the things fall in place for us to be able to begin to function effectively. There have been scattered policies and documents all over the place. With the Environmental Protection Agency, with the Environmental Ministry itself, local government, and various assemblies, and all these have to be brought together and harmonized into one set of policy and give government one set of policy direction.
Okay.
To ensure that this is the way forward that we're going to move. And so we had to move immediately into getting a strategic workshop in place to ensure that all the players come to the table and bring their bits of whatever they were trying to do in their respective corners for us to harmonize this into a sector-wide strategic plan to ensure that we've got well laid out strategic plan for 3 to 5 years, medium to long term, and then follow that and make sure that the country gets out of the doldrums, as it were, in terms of the sanitation problems that we're facing. While water was doing well, in terms of the nation getting closer to the MDGs, we're doing poorly in the sanitation side. And so with the water improvement, we're able to go up about 80% plus in terms of coverage, and that's what's reported.
I mean,
that's what's
the
reported.
previous government mostly said that it was 86%.
Well, that's why I put it 80.
Okay, so
it's
my
varied.
problem is that is it for the urban or the rural areas?
Well, that's the point I'm making. It's varied between the urban and the rural areas. So the numbers keep changing depending on whom you talk to, who did whatever survey. The fact of the matter is that you and I know that water has not gotten to all of us in all the rural areas and the urban areas, so there's a lot of work to be done. And that's why the president is saying we need water for all. So water should get to everybody. So that's the primary objective of the ministry. The point I wanted to make earlier was that water was doing better than sanitation. And without being able to move rapidly, to even contract more credit facilities to ensure that we rapidly extend the water to all the parts of the nation that we can get to. That's not enough, but we're beginning with that. I must say, for the record, that in the nearly 1 year that the Nana Akufo-Addo's government has been in power, it is my ministry alone that's been able to get 4 credit facilities through Parliament. The other one that's going through is from the Ministry of Education. I think one has just been tabled again for the Ministry of Roads.
The education is the Secondary Education Improvement Project one.
Yes. So other than those other 2 ministries, it is my ministry alone that's been able to get 4 credit facilities through.
Concessionary loans?
Concessionary loans, largely.
Grants?
Grants, a part of it. Grants, even in some cases, going up to 42%.
So, I mean, looking at the entire amount, how much are we looking at?
From these credit facilities?
Yes,
we're talking about the neighborhood of about $150 million so far.
Interesting.
The important thing is that
I was about to ask you whether you utilize this money.
Financial foundation will not be able to deliver.
And
part of these loans were also supporting sanitation, even though they're not much. For instance, the Sustainable Rural Water credit facility from the African Development Bank, which is about $45.7 million, has got a component of it, GasLip, that's supporting us. GasLip is the one that's funded by ADB. That's also helping us to expand further the sanitation aspects of Greater Accra metropolitan area. We call it Greater Accra Sustainable Sanitation Livelihood Improvement Project. The point is that without resources, you cannot deliver.
So you've got the money?
We've been working on getting these resources. We've got some of the money, not all the money. We've been working to get these resources to be able to deliver. Alongside that would be structuring the system in a manner that will have the right institutional setup and building the capacity for us to be able to roll out there and get things done. While we're doing that, we cannot say that work will not go on. Work has been going on, okay? In the sense that the metropolitan municipal district assemblies have been doing what they're supposed to be doing. They are supposed to be the implementing agencies. Let me state this emphatically, that every ministry, and in this case our ministry, is responsible for developing policies and monitoring the implementation and advising government on what needs to be redone again in terms of improving on the policy orientation. We don't actually go out there and do the implementation. We roll it out to the assemblies. In the case of the assembly, the district or municipal or metropolitan areas will be able to go out and actually collect the waste and help process it. And then when you go to other aspects of service delivery, education, for instance, GES will be part of it, and so on and so forth. So we have been preoccupied with making sure we set up the structures right, the systems right, and crafting the right policy for us to be able to roll this out. While at the same time, we're overseeing what the assemblies should be doing in the interim until we get things properly done. Examples, for instance, contracts that were issued. Some issued from the assembly level, some issued at the district assembly common fund level, some issued at the local government ministry. These are all things that have to be brought back to the table, synchronized, and handled in a proper manner under the ministry for us to be able to ensure that the right policy is being implemented through
Any
this
cancelled frivolous contracts?
Those are the ones that are being reviewed. If they're frivolous, they have to be cancelled. If they're fraudulent, they have to be cancelled. If there are penalties to be levied against those who contracted those engagements, they have to be dealt with.
Are they in the area of sanitation?
There's some in the area of sanitation that we're looking at. I don't want to prejudge.
Because there's a prominent one, of course. I mean, across the country, there's one predominantly to do with that of Zoom
people have opinions.
And the Just One group of companies.
People have opinions on that. Wait till the legal experts come up with the advice on how we should.
How long have they been working on these documents?
Oh, we're talking about 216 assemblies.
Yeah.
We're talking about different contracts also from the local government ministry. We're talking about different contracts in the common fund administration. Some even go direct to the Minister of Finance. So all these have to come and be looked at and put together under certain guidelines that are approved by the ministry. For now, we don't have the capacity to be able to do that. Fortunately, we've got a legal person in the form of a deputy minister, but we have no legal desk to deal with this. And so we have to count on other agencies of government to support us.
It doesn't look like it's going to get done anytime soon.
Oh, we're done soon. We're done soon.
Is there a timeline for it?
Why? Because we have just completed a policy document for us to set up a National Sanitation Authority. And there's a key agency that we need to have in place to deal with the sanitation matter very effectively. The minister is not responsible for implementation, as I said. Sanitation Authority will come up with a regulatory framework and the direction taken from the policy guidelines from the ministry to oversee what is happening at the local levels. This policy is before cabinet. Depending on what comes out of it, and I'm sure it's going to be approved by cabinet.
Before
we have the bill while the year is almost finished.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Cabinet just has one more sitting.
Yes,
so I'm not so sure that's going to be practical for us to say that it's going to be done before the end of the year. But once the policy approval has been given, then the bill comes into place. The bill goes through Parliament. Sanitation Authority will be set up. We have the Chief Executive Officer, and all the other officers will be there to help us to roll out this matter.
Okay.
In the meantime, we have to be very careful as a ministry not to overstep our bounds, as it were, in doing things that will make it difficult for the authority to come and be able to function effectively. So these are some of the, shall I say, the building blocks that we need to put in place for us to be able to have a real, shall we say, scientific, modern state-of-the-art management system.
Give me one more chance to fix your microphone. I'm giving to understand you are still inaudible at this particular point in time. So give me one more chance. We'll take a little break and see how we can fix this problem permanently. You welcome back. I'm giving to understand that we now can have a very wonderful conversation, continue with the Honorable Sanitation Minister, and it's your issues that we are putting to him for answers for you in the area of sanitation, also in the area of water resources. Anyway, Honorable Kofi Addo, you're welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm told it's far better now. So we can continue our conversation. You were giving us a panoramic view of what's happening in the ministry currently.
Correct.
And you left off on the note was telling us that you have actually put together all of the contracts in the sector on sanitation. They are being reviewed, and whichever one is found to be frivolous, whichever one is found to be fraudulent, will be cancelled. Is there a timeline specifically for this job to be done?
Well, legal matters, you can't just put a timeline to that because it depends on what they find and what the counter views would come and the legal battles will take place and so on and so forth. But we would like to do that as quickly as we can. But I think the best way to approach this is to systematize the way that the contracts should be drawn up. The guidelines that would tell any assembly to engage any service provider.
But to be fair, are you in a position to, for example, abrogate a contract that was not signed by your ministry?
We get a legal advice on that.
That's interesting.
In other words, if the payment is going to be done by us coming to next year, we'll refuse to pay on a contract that we think is not delivering what it was meant to deliver.
Okay, that's pretty clear. And let's now get to appreciate the other point that you also made, that is to do with what else is happening in the ministry when it comes to the drafting of a National Sanitation Authority's policy. And you are also convinced that by the end of this year, I would have gotten the backing from what they call the cabinet so that I can go straight to Parliament and we see it being passed. Was it not prioritized?
Oh, it was prioritized, but this is a new thing that we're bringing up, and you've got so many players in the system who all have to present their views on it. You don't want to bring it up any law.
Delayed it.
It delayed it, but it delayed it. You have to go through that and get all the best practices playing in terms of the way the policy should be fashioned out, and then get the cabinet to debate on it and bring out their views before we would agree on this the way we should go out with the Sanitation Authority. The principle of setting up a Sanitation Authority, I don't think that's in dispute. It's the form, the structure, the content, and the basic things that should be the elements of this whole.
But to those who are saying that you don't really need an authority to do the job, if you really want to do it, you can do it without that. What's the potent argument?
I don't think that argument makes sense at all, because a ministry is responsible for setting up policy. The ministry cannot go out doing implementation. And if you're going to have every one of the 260 assemblies doing implementation without any overarching architecture, overseeing what they're doing, making sure that they're all synchronized with national policy direction, I don't think it would be right.
But
you take me, somebody coming out of nowhere who has no clue. I'm not saying me, Honorable Kofi Ada, but I'm talking about anybody who can be picked up, Raymond or anyone, to be a district chief executive somewhere. It would be the first time for you to understand issues on sanitation. You must have some guidelines coming from an authority, such as National Policy, National Sanitation Authority, to guide you on how you should conduct yourself.
So
without that, really, you'll be lost.
So
I'll be lost. We do think that will not bring.
This authority would only synchronize the work of the various assemblies.
And regulate and promote and set up other standards that apply globally.
Does the authority, will they have the powers to actually exact penalties and also sanctions?
Those are all the details that will come out.
To the district assemblies?
The mother law would spell out the policy direction on that. The regulations will spell out the details in terms of how many cedis will be charged if you place your foodstuff on the ground rather than putting them maybe a meter high on a table, or if you don't have a toilet in your house, where you should have one in your house, that sort of thing. All those things will be spelled out in detail.
But currently there are bylaws in the various assemblies.
Yeah, but I know the AMA has one. That's the whole point.
Okay.
AMA has, all the assemblies will say they have.
But why would you want to synchronize when indeed there are differences across the country?
Oh, no, in terms of the principles.
Oh, okay, principles.
In terms of the principles.
That's understandable.
Yes, the authority would be the one guiding. We've not had this over the years. We've not had it, and we need that. Any modern country you go to that is running the sanitation function properly has to have this. It doesn't just emanate from the ministry's level.
Let me pick your brain on this particular issue, and since you realized that you brought in this particular point, there's currently a conversation on how much is being paid, over 1,000 Ghana cedis to put up a lavatory here in Accra, in the homes that don't have lavatories. Some say this is very expensive, especially for the poor neighborhoods who do not have these facilities. Is this something that you'll be willing to work on? Yes, 1,000 Ghana cedis.
I'd say if you look at the full complement of the work required, I'd say it's probably not enough.
Not enough?
Yes.
Really?
Pick up.
How many
people
can actually
First of all, there are different aspects of toilets you're talking about.
Yeah. And this is supposed to be a standard one, WC, of course.
Standard, well, if you go to WC, you're looking at the water closet itself, the seater, you're looking at the tank, you're looking at the ring, you're looking at the pipeline that come in there, looking at the overall tank that should bring the water in there, and you're looking at the enclosure itself in terms of the housing facility. And then the cost of the artisans who will construct that. If you begin to go through all the cost elements of all of this, you see that I think it's been in the neighborhood of about 2,500 cedis.
And they cut it down.
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it all depends. If you want to have a KVIP type thing in the house, it could be less than that. You can just dig a pit and do a little slab and put it on top of it and finished. If you want to have a
I thought we have moved
there are some other
improved facilities like that.
No, improved is defined differently. Within the development partner circles, all the players of the wash sector,
is the
when they talked about improve, they're talking about
people who use it.
Exactly so. You know the point.
Yeah.
It's me, you, your wife, your kids. Finished. Not all of us in a compound house. So that's different from improved in terms of whether it's KVIP or it's a water closet.
I get that.
Yes.
Now, my point here is that since we have an interest and mindful of the fact that we keep having high figures of open defecation,
yes,
won't we rather be interested in not only subsidizing, but looking at the possibilities of providing for free people in these communities?
Let me tell you this.
And the linkages are clear.
To be
Cholera,
very frank, it's not a primary responsibility of government to provide toilets for you and I. Simply not. It is because it's become such a big problem that the government is stepping in to do this in the interim. And my view, and that will be my recommendation, I don't want to prejudge things, but my recommendation to the government that let's give a timeline within a matter of 6 months, 1 year, whatever you, for government to do its bit and encourage people to come on board as quickly as possible, just as we're trying to do with the ODF campaign. And thereafter, if you and I are constructing our houses, we don't put a toilet in there, then AMA comes in and gets us.
AMA is already doing that.
I know, so why should we be counting on government
I'm
to be
saying
responsible?
it's not working because they even agree that the people are not doing it regardless of the punitive measures you
So
want to
the
level against
authority
them.
comes in, it supports the AMA, they're able to send you and I to court for us to keep paying. When we're kids, I'm a little older than you, I know.
I want to believe
When we're
so.
kids, believe me, when we saw the Sama or the Tangasi officer coming down the road, we ran to our mothers and told them the man was coming. And they had to quickly make sure they put the house in order. Not just about the cleanliness of the house, but also the availability of the toilets and making sure that environment is clean. These are things that are required by law for us to have. You have money to build up a house, a 10-bedroom house, 4-bedroom house, or 10 compound house, and cannot build a toilet. Or you make provision in your plan for one room to be a toilet and bathroom. And then because you're able to get rent income, you collapse the toilet and the bathroom and turn it into a room that you can get rent income from. That's against the law.
Is that a prevailing issue?
Yes, that is what it is. I bet you if we were to go through all of the neighborhoods in Ghana, you will see rooms that were earmarked for toilets that have been converted to rentable rooms. That means that they knew the law, they tried, but because they could get away with it, they backed up and made sure that they converted it to money that they could earn and not allow the toilets to be constructed. So if the law is enforced, and you and I are building up a house and put a toilet in there, there's no need for government to come in and put in a toilet for you and I. But I think in the interim, because of the effects, the side effects, and the cost to the state from cholera, the things you mentioned, the government is stepping in trying to make sure that's done, and our development partners are also supporting us to make sure we do the right thing. If we do this, then the rest of it will be enforcement. If by the closure of that time, you don't build your house to the toilet, you're not allowed to operate the house if it's going to be commercial property or whatever other property you're putting up. So the authority would be the best placed organization to be able to do this for us.
Okay, but beyond this, there is also the general discussion about water provision being problematic. I'm just looking at the 2017.
Being what?
Problematic, especially.
Yes.
I want to know, for example, at paragraph 124 of the 2017 budget stated that the major water project to be undertaken in 2017 will be the continuation of the Greater Accra Metropolitan Water Extension Project, as well as those in Kumasi and Cape Coast. How far have you gone with these projects?
We've gone quite far indeed. Walking out of my office to come here, I had on my desk the master plan for the water pipelines in Accra that's being funded under the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Project Gamma. Pipelines have been laid down at Teshi, Nungwa. Those things are ongoing.
What's going to happen with the desalination plant?
Well, we're reviewing it to look at the cost benefits of that, whether it's something that Ghana Water can continue to hold, or whether it's something that they should bail out of in whatever form or whatever way they should bail out of it. We have to look at it critically. At the time that I came on board, maybe we needed that because water was in short supply and we didn't have the Pong Phase 1 completed, and so we needed it desperately. But as a nation, really, we don't need to go into desalination because we've got fresh water all over the country.
Okay.
But we're not efficient in the way that we deliver water to households. That's why we are going for it. Now that it's an asset, that's part of the nation's stock of assets, we have to look at it critically and see how we do that.
It's quick and fast becoming a white elephant.
Well, not just a white elephant, it become a burden on the Ghana Water Company. They have to pay a lot of money every month on electricity, on the volume of water that they're generating and so on and so forth. It could serve a very useful purpose from a strategic point of view. But if we have more of this water plants coming on board, like Pong, we had phase 2 coming up, or any other water treatment plant. It may, I won't say it's a wild elephant, but it's an asset that can be used in a specialized way. In other words, with the one district one factory program going on, and with the industrial plants that are being established throughout the whole country, they can become off-takers of this water for their own work. So there's no need for you and I in our houses to use it. A big factory, a big industrial establishment.
Even though the supposed to complain that still salty, all of the elements that...
Well, as for us, sanitation is a different matter. And that's why I'm talking about the industrial plants. If they feel they need this for some reason, you know, and would rather take the water from there than what you and I are getting from Pong or Wager, well, that's something we negotiate and
Pong,
conclude on.
Akimoda and whole water expansion projects, the tunnel water treatment projects for the Upper East region in Navrongo as well as Yendin and Damongo were supposed to be undertaken within the year under review. What's the status of these projects?
Navrongo being next to my community and being my constituency, that's been concluded. Parliament has approved, yes, concluded in terms of credit facility going through Parliament.
You know, when you say concluded, I thought you meant, you know,
the project has not been started. No,
so I wanted to be clear about
the project has not been started.
Okay.
The financial process has to be to go through.
Okay.
In fact, this project started way back in 2004. I pushed it through Parliament when I first came to Parliament. And got the Minister of Works and Housing, Water Resources at the time to try and encourage us to have it. Finally, we've gotten through Parliament. Yendi, the credit facility is between the Minister of Finance and Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing. Akimoda, with 95% finished. I think actually it's technically finished, except for the fact that there are quality control people are looking at. Which are the ones you want to know? There's so many going on.
Okay, yes, I'll come quickly to this particular one. The 1,000 of boreholes that were promised, which were supposed to be projects ongoing, they were supposed to also be completed. Are they done?
They're only, let me count the figure, there's 6 from the northern region, 6 from the central region, 5 from the upper west region. Only 17 are left to be done out of the 1,000.
Oh, so it's left with 17.
17.
And we can see these projects across the country.
Yes.
We can have a list of all of them across the country.
In fact, I had that on my table before I came over. I wish
what is stalling work on these 17?
Well, it's the practical movement of the team that goes around drilling. They have to do the siting, they have to come up with their plans to their head office and conclude on how they do the drilling, and then they have to do testing and all of that. Sometimes the communities too have to be brought in for them to agree where it's going to be sited. If they don't get a wet well, I have to go for a dry well. That's what is delayed. I know in the northern region, for instance, 2 dry wells were drilled in the Savluga area. They're resiting again. If they had found wet wells over a month ago, I'm sure that we would have counted that as part of what has been accomplished. So that's what has delayed some of them. But I know 5 from the upper, or is it 5 or 8? I can't remember the number. Upper West region, 6 in the central region that are left.
So there are 2,000 more that were supposed to be initiated?
Yes. Out of that, I think about 460 have been done. The bill has just come to me. We're reviewing that to see the quality of the work that's been undertaken. Sometimes it's the tardiness in the way the funds are released. You know, we don't always get all the money the way we want it at the right time. And so you have to also understand the Minister of Finance. If the incomes are not flowing in, finance cannot give you money they don't have. And so sometimes that's what delays the process.
Okay, so that's interesting on the Water for All project. There was supposed to be some preparatory works being done for us to introduce water meters. Has it been abandoned finally, as many Ghanaians were opposed to it?
It is ongoing. As a matter of fact,
really?
the reason why
you're still bent on doing that?
The reason why I'm sitting here with a little cold is that I just came back from Denmark.
Okay.
Where we went to visit the factory and to be taken through the way the meters operate there.
But we had a pilot system done already.
Yes, but we needed to have high volumes of them to be able to make sure you and I get.
Okay.
These are more or less, they call them smart meters or remote control meters that are sealed and packaged. They cannot be tampered with by you and I. By screwing them, getting them out of the shell and running the gears, whatever. These are digital ones.
So government's plan is to go ahead with this policy?
It is going on with that.
When will they start?
Well, it is ongoing. 80,000 meters have been acquired. We're looking to acquire a lot more. The funding has been the problem that we're negotiating.
Has the 80,000 meters been deployed to homes
already? No, it's not been deployed yet. They've not been deployed.
So when will the deployments done?
I have not this week checked with the Minister of, with the Ghana Water Company to know how far they've gotten with that. But the 40,000 that first came did not come with the valves. So they were going back to get the valves. I think the first 40,000 valves have come along with that. The second 40,000 either have been delivered or they're being delivered.
Should we expect this to happen in the new year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That should
January?
Yes. January, I can't say January. It will depend on the engineers. They have the implementation plans and all the mobilization things have to go through.
How many regions will have the first implementation plan and commence?
I think it'd be wise for us to look at the areas of high concentration.
Like?
The urban areas.
So
like
it will not be...
That's where we can get high volumes of income.
Oh, okay. So that's where you're starting from?
Yes. Yes. We're not just starting from that alone. Where we're also implementing new water treatment plants, such as WA, for instance. We can deploy those there to make sure that there's a new culture, a new way of doing things with this new water treatment plant that was commissioned by the president not too long ago. So if we can get those, we're about, I think about 20,000 customer base in WA. I think 3,000 is what we've just commissioned is addressing. So there's room there for about 17,000 if my memory serves me right. So if we can get these smart meters in all those places, it means that we can be sure that we're collecting the revenue from all these.
How much money is that supposed to save us?
Oh, we're saving us upwards of $100 and something million. Basically, we're talking about between 52 to 55% of non-revenue water, meaning that all the income that Ghana Water is making, more than half of that's usually not being accounted for because of water leakage, because of poor billing, not being able to bill, and so on and so forth. So if we can get this across the country, let's say we get upwards of 200, 300, 400, 500,000 meters, all of us being metered and paying for that. And we have meters that we cannot tamper with. I'm sure Ghana Water would not have less than $150 million regularly.
Okay, now my other point to this is, are these meters going to come from local manufacturers?
I didn't quite get that.
Are local manufacturers going to put together these meters? Are we buying from local manufacturers?
I'm not aware of local manufacturers being able to put together these smart meters. In fact,
there are smart meters for electricity that's been produced here.
Oh, there are meters being produced in Ghana.
Yeah.
Smart meters I'm not aware of yet.
There are six different companies, if I can't tell you.
Well, I would like to visit those plants and see what is going on. But on the water meters, my research has shown, and technical experts have shared with me, that even to the extent that a developed and advanced country like America, that's got different types of meters, they're actually even rushing to get these smart meters from Denmark. I think they call it Kamstrup. And the big plant is being set there. But these are people who are investing a lot on research and development and constantly
I get your point.
improving.
With the smart meters, will we pay more?
We pay more?
For the unit price of water supplied, will we pay more?
I'm not sure what the regular meters are like now, but I think it could be slightly more, but the returns will be higher.
Why should the ordinary Ghanaian bear the cost for government's attempt to improve on its own operations?
Every company that wants to improve its operations has to invest.
And what should the cost be to the ordinary Ghanaian?
Because we're producing the water and selling to you, and you're using the water.
Okay, now, interesting.
I would go with the argument if you said that we should reduce the level of inefficiencies.
Yes, I mean,
that we should work on.
Yes.
I don't agree with that at all. That we should work on. If there's a high level of inefficiency in the water utilities, like water company or even a community water agency, or the NGOs who are providing water to the rural areas, I think we should address all those things.
What percentage would you want to increase water coverage by in the year 2018?
By year 2018? I think we should be going upwards of 80-90%.
No water for all in 2018?
2018, I'm not so sure practically we can sit here and say that everybody will have water by the end of 2018. No.
Anyway,
why? Because in some areas we do not have the water readily available.
Okay.
In some areas we have to veer off the water and construct some dams and lay pipelines. And even the water project in WA, for instance, where it's been completed, pipelines have not been laid. So we need some funding.
I need to ask you this question. Are we still having water bodies that are threatened with Galamsey currently?
I have not gotten the latest reports on that, but I should think that there will be a few that are still within that realm that would have to be addressed with. But the Operation Vanguard team is actively working on that, and Minister of Natural Resources and Environment are also busy working on that. My own agency, Water Resources Commission, is working on buffer zones to protect the water bodies, ensure that a lot of the harm is not being done as was done before. The beauty is that the turbidity, that was supposed to be 5. That went up to about 3,000 to nearly 5,000. Has come down to about 2,000 thereabouts, and it's coming down further lower.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Now, there are attempts to put together sanitation officers. Have they been recruited? Are they being deployed?
Sanitation brigades.
Yes.
Well, it's I was going to say it's a new concept, but it's not totally a new concept. It's a rehashed and modernized way of bringing about the sanitation brigades.
Have they been recruited already?
They've not been recruited. There's a few of them were brought on board to set the tone right. The guidelines, the modalities, the operational standards are the ones that have been developed. It's one of the outputs of the ministry that the Environmental Health and Sanitation Wing
I get
have
you.
completed.
In 2018, how many do you intend to recruit?
My view from the start will be each assembly should have not less than 50 sanitation brigades. Others, such as the more densely populated areas like AMA, should have at least 100 per sub-metro, something of that sort.
Which year?
It will depend on the budgets, will depend on the needs of the area.
Which month and which year in the coming years are we to expect a very clean Accra and all parts of the country?
Oh, I would say by the time we enter the middle of the year, by June, I think they should be in top shape.
When are we going to make Accra the cleanest in West Africa, as the president promised?
Well, the president said that within his tenure, we'll make Accra the cleanest city.
Which year will that happen?
Well, we've got a 4-year mandate. 1 year is nearly gone. I'll say within the next 1-2 years, we should see a remarkable difference.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us today. And folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of UPfront. My guest is the Sanitation and Water Resources Minister. He should be back in the course of the year for more review. I enjoyed my stay with you. We are very excited to have you today.
Thank you very much, Rima.
And that's it for today's edition of UPfront.